y'all. Redneck Lesbian here with her special guest, Brad Sunday, the co-host of Pitney and Amelia's Bitchin' Boutique. And y'all have to check that out. Today we're going to talk about costumes and dress up and all of the things that really are kind of meaningful for the gay and lesbian community, I think, as a whole. And I'll start with my little story. When I was in, I think it was junior high, my little redneck school, and believe me, there were 9 people in my class.
Oh my God.
My grade. And so they had punk rock day, and the idea was to make fun of those people. But so we were said to, dress up, come in, we'll have a contest. And I'm like, oh my God, I get to dress up as a punk rocker. And so I did. And I was just fabulous. And I tried to color my hair green, but with food coloring, it didn't really work. Anyway, but I really went all out and I had so much fun. I thought, I wish I could do this every day. And of course, it was only permitted on that day, and my not just the school but my parents would have freaked out if I'd wanted to do that every day, of course. But that's the thing right there, is this permissibility thing. Having the permission to express yourselves in ways that are not normally allowed by the society, and that really matters a lot to the gay experience in particular. What do you have to say about that?
It's interesting, and I was like, I was talking to my friend Steve about this topic because we were going to do this. I am 54, and he is 72. They're 73 now, so he grew up in the heyday of the Castro, in San Francisco, and it was a lot different then. And what he was telling me, what was going on then, is similar to like my journey and my experience with like dressing up as far as like gay identity. Pre-Stonewall, there was a lot of drag, and there was a lot of trans and trans hookers and stuff, because that's what they had to do to survive, But I think that's different than what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is different.
Just to be clear, we're not talking about that. I'm acknowledging that was a thing, but we're not talking about that.
Right.
I just wanted to just put that out there. But like, especially, with the hippies and stuff in the 70s, there was a lot of gender fuck going on. There was, John Water and the Cockettes, and the Andy Warhol people, even though those can arguably said that they were either trans people or drag queens or whatever, but I think at the time it was just gender fuck for art, right? And the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, all that stuff, that started the late 70s, but all that stuff, it was just like fucking with the norms of male and female to forge like this gay thing, right? And it sort of parallels me, like, several years ago, if you would have asked me, I said, well, I used to do drag. But I realized I've never done drag in my life. I used to do gender fuck.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't trying to be a woman. I wasn't trying to pass as a woman. I wanted to be blatantly a man wearing tacky women's clothing and ugly makeup and stupid wigs, because I thought it was fun and I thought it was funny. And to me, that was a way for me to express my queer identity. I was going to say gender identity, but you can't say that now, whereas I might have said that before, because now it means something different. You know what I mean? that I feel like, okay, this is a little controversial, right? But I'm just going to say, I believe that gay men, lesbians, bisexuals, I believe that our gender identity is a little bit different than a straight man or a straight woman. Equally different from a trans person, right?
Yes.
I think that, I mean, if despite all the fetish for straight acting and all this stuff, there's more femininity in gay men than there are in straight men, and that's just how it is.
Sure.
And I think that is God's way of saying whatever you want to do is fine.
Agree, because I don't really think that souls have gender. You know what I mean? I think we're everything.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so I'm just as comfortable wearing makeup as I am shopping in the men's aisle. And I do. So,
and for me, it was just like, it was just an expression of my queerness and an expression of like me accepting myself. That I was like, yeah, I'm a gay man, and I'm because everybody used to call me like faggot and sissy and skirt. And it was like my ownership of it. It was like, yes, I'm a faggot. Look at this tacky fucking dress that I'm wearing, and isn't it hilarious? And from what I was talking to about Steve in the 70s, that was a lot of the thing too, because it was like a self-awareness and a self-empowerment thing and an ownership thing, but it was also a political statement of why the fuck does this even matter?
It's an irreverence in part. Like, it's like, we don't care for your social norms. Fuck your social norms, right?
Totally. And it's like, I mean, we're not going to get into this now, but it's like, that's why I've been like so enamored with like the Temple of Satan recently, right. Because it's blasphemy for the sake of blasphemy, because there's nothing sacred about what they're being blasphemous to. It's just these norms, and it's so fucking stupid.
Indeed.
And that was how I saw my gender fuck. And if you look at like the Coquettes, and the Sisters, the Perpetual Indulgence, the John Waters movies, all of that stuff is basically, fuck you, society. We can do whatever the fuck we want, and what's wrong with it?
Amen. Amen.
And I used to because back then, thrift store shopping was so much better in the 80s than it is now. Because you had all this tacky fucking shit from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that people were getting rid of. And vintage wasn't a thing back then.
So yeah, you pay big money for that now.
Oh, yeah, that shit was cheap. And I had these fabulous like polyester dresses and lame pantsuits and jumpsuits, and my favorite thing, and I have a picture of it, and I will email it to you. Maybe you can insert it in a thing. My favorite thing in the world, this was a real garment that somebody wore. Like, I don't even want to say triple knit. I want to say quadruple knit polyester. Woof. It was turquoise, purple, shit brown, geometric pattern.
I believe that.
Mandarin collar, zipped up the back and it was a bodysuit that ended right at the crotch. Some woman wore that and thought she looked really cute in it. I wore it because I would just put it on and I would break out in hysterical laughter in the mirror. So, of course, I would put on really ugly makeup and really ugly lipstick and go out.
I do need to see that picture.
I will absolutely send it. I will send you several pictures.
I don't think I could wear something like that because my mother literally dressed me like that in the 70s when I was a kid, because she'd made a lot of my clothes, and it was the cheapest fucking, I swear to God, it's like a 1/4 inch thick polyester.
Oh yeah. Oh, and this was homemade. This was homemade.
Oh, Oh, easy to
And
sew on,
some
for
poor
sure.
girl wore this in real life, and it was so hilarious. I just remember that I had this. I knew that I was ready to go out when I looked in the mirror and couldn't stop laughing. And I am not joking.
You know, that's kind of a related thing for me. So that sense of humor, with along with the fuck you society attitude, you know, fuck your norms, is so important because it's really missing in particularly, but not strictly straight white, you know, straight men.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have much of a sense of humor around norms or things like that. You know, they're so uptight, you know, about, you know, can't have anybody thinking they're gay, you know, that kind of thing. And so they don't have a sense of humor about that, and they're missing out. I think that's part of toxic masculinity, and again, why I think that's so bad for men. But
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, one of my closest friends is this man named Darren. He is the gentlest, sweetest, most open straight man you will ever find in the whole world. Totally supportive, totally pro-gay. He has 3 kids. They've had conversations about gay, about trans, about whatever.
sure.
You know, and he's like, whatever you want to do, fine, whatever. We used to go out, and because I'm me, everybody thought we were a couple. He never cared.
Right.
He would go to the gay bars with me, and he would never ever dance, but he would dance with me at the gay bars.
Oh.
Did not care that people thought that we were a couple. But the funny thing is, costume parties, you try to put a wig on him, you try to put like a girly shirt on him. Oh, fuck no. He is like, I am not putting that on. Get that away from me. It's really funny. And it doesn't even make, and I was like, oh, just for me. Oh, no, not just for me. Normally that works. I can say anything to him, just for me, and anything. But not that. Wigs, makeup, shirts. Oh, no.
Just wasn't him, I guess.
It's interesting though, but there's a level of discomfort there that's just like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the socialization does to people. You know, it really, there is that discussion. It's why it took so long for women to be able to wear pants in public.
Yeah.
You know, which sounds stupid now, but it was a thing once upon a time.
Oh, I know, because it was scandalous up until, was it the 70s? Was it as early as the 60s, or was it the 70s where pants were acceptable for women in the workplace?
I don't think until the 70s. And
yeah,
it probably depended on where you were in the country. You know, in the South, there's still a uniform, yeah. You know, for women. That, you know, it's heavy makeup, lots of hairspray, and, you know, pantyhose.
Yeah, because I remember, you know, in my thrift store adventures, finding like fabulous polyester women's pantsuits that were obviously from the 60s.
Yeah.
But that was pretty radical. That was like radical club wear. That wasn't like,
it was bra burning.
Your mama would wear it. That was like the scandalous people went out to get drunk and do acid, you know?
People. Yeah.
Which is, that's what I did when I wore that shit. I went out and got drunk and did acid and had sex, you know?
I know. Oh, man.
Oh, the good old days. Anyway.
But yeah, no,
it's really, it's interesting. In fact, I was talking to Amelia, my cohort on the podcast. Doesn't like to share her name. I don't care about sharing mine. Well, you know that. And we were talking about, you know, what, you know, us doing this. And so we started talking about drag now. and RuPaul's Drag Race.
Right.
And all of that. And it's strange, and I feel like, and this is confusing for what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
I feel like there's so much emphasis on in Drag Race for it to be real. Like, can you pass? Is it real? There is a lot of camp in there. Some of the queens are just flat out camp.
Right.
And some of the queens are just flat out trying to be real. And I feel like there's a big blur now in drag of gay drag and trans. Whereas they used to be totally separate things. And I think that's a growing pain. And I think that it's like, I know I don't go out to the bars anymore. I'm too old. I have no idea what the scene is like now with this new drag thing. But I know in the 90s and the early 2000s where I was going out a lot, gender fuck flat out didn't happen anymore unless it was like performance art, right? And drag queens were just trying to be more real. And the few drag queens that were doing gender fuck, the gay boys didn't like them because they were tranny, and the drag queens didn't like them because they weren't real.
Interesting.
This was then, and this was my observation.
Sure.
I'm going to have 10 people telling me I'm wrong and 10 people telling me, oh yeah, right on. So, you know, this is just my opinion, my observation.
Well, every person is different, right? How they approach this. So of course their viewpoint is highly subjective on that. But that is, you know, you not every drag queen is a transgender person. And
no, absolutely not.
So, I mean, there's room for both. And
oh yeah, but I feel like there's a blurring now, and I feel like I think maybe it's post-AIDS, and I think it's because all of those people died, that it's a new generation with different attitudes, where gender fuck and that need for a gay identity wasn't quite as there after. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just, you know, my observation. And I feel like I remember like all of like, you know, the it boys hated the drag queens. Whereas I know Steve was telling me in the 70s, everybody loved the drag queens. Everybody loved the gender fuck people. It was like a community and everybody was together as this new experience of costume and dress and expression to find this identity. And I think AIDS fucked that up, and it splintered like the straight actings with the drag queens, and then there's like the Nellies in the middle that nobody wants to associate with.
There's some other factors that happened along
the way. Gender fuck people, but they're afraid to because the straight acting crowd hates them and the drag queens don't like them because all drag queens are all trying to fuck the straight actings. Well, so there's like the Nellies like me in the middle who would be doing all this stuff, but it's gone.
And then in that same period of time, so not only did we have AIDS, we had, it was slow, but we had some changing attitudes. And we also had this kind of co-optization, this commercialization of what you're talking about. Because in the 80s, we had the music videos and we had Boy George and we had Prince and we had
Annie Lennox.
All of those people who were
Grace Jones,
and I'm not knocking any of them, but
I love them. It's great.
Love them, but they made it more yes, acceptable, but also ultimately more commercial to have those looks. And I think that anytime an underground culture sees their culture kind of commercialized, they kind of tend to want to go, well, fuck that, let's go do something else.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that might be part of it. And as things have become a little more acceptable over time, depending on who you're talking about, certainly not in redneck country, but you know, it has changed some things. And even RuPaul has changed. I mean,
Oh,
talk about somebody who could pass as a woman. She was impressive, but I have not seen her in drag in years. I don't know why.
I don't know. Maybe she's just over it. You know, I don't know.
That's
Because it's a
allowed.
lot of fucking work to do that shit, you know?
Totally. Well, and she's allowed to change. Everybody's allowed to change. But yeah, it has changed a lot.
And I feel like, and I know that there's a lot of drag queens that are just drag queens. They identify as gay men and they use this as like, but I think what I used it for, and I want to say, I was just going to say something very pretentious, and I don't mean it in this pretentious way because it's not even accurate, but the only accurate way that I could say it, I did it as a political statement. But it wasn't necessarily a political statement. It was a personal fuck you to all of my tormentors. This is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. And I know I look ridiculous. And it's really fucking funny and great. And shut the fuck up. That's how I did it.
And it's empowering to do that.
Yeah.
I think that is really an important piece. I think that's still there as part of the whole spectrum, if you will, of costume and dress, gender play. I mean, just, well, that's commercialized too. I was thinking of cosplay. You know, you've got even straight people can do, you know, some costume stuff. You know, you've got your LARPers, got your cosplayers at conventions and things like that. And I love those people. Those are my people too. But
I grew up in science fiction fandom and I was a cosplayer. Absolutely.
Totally. And I've raised 2 cosplayers. They're totally into it.
V costumes, Doctor Who costumes, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica. I did the gambit of, this all says my age, right?
Sure. Yeah. Honey, I'm right
Actually,
with you.
It's weird. Like Doctor Who, Star Wars, that's all popular now, but I'm talking like the old
ones, exactly. Yeah, I saw a meme that showed a line of kids to the first Star Wars movie and said, "This was your grandparents," and I'm like, "No, that was me." That was me.
But it's funny though, because I remember when I used to go to anime cons a lot in the 90s.
Yeah.
And there was always the inappropriate fanboy dressed as Sailor Moon. It was always a straight guy, and everybody always laughed at him, and it somehow became this thing that would just happen at these cons. And it was treated as a joke and to make people laugh and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's actually served inadvertently a higher purpose, that it made people a little more comfortable with gender play and that it's okay,
Absolutely.
And it was like me and Amelia we were recording right before this, and we were sort of talking about what we were going to talk about, right? And I was thinking of, okay, this is going to say how old and how completely not on social media and how out of the loop I am. I literally did not know who Harry Styles was until I saw a record of his at Target, and I was like, who the fuck is that? And then I saw this article a few weeks ago about him wearing a dress on the cover of, was it Vogue?
Something like that, yes.
Whatever. So we were talking about that. And so I clicked on that article, and I had read this interview with him and this article about him, and they had all these pictures of him from now back to when he was like in a boy band.
Yes.
Him wearing skirts and dresses and just constantly women's clothes, but also men's clothes. And he was like, I wear what I like, and what the fuck does it matter?
Thank you.
And he wasn't like even making a statement, because he refuses to answer questions if he's gay, straight, or bi. I personally think he's probably straight. I don't know.
Right.
But he refuses to answer questions about that, because like, why the fuck does that even matter?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty awesome. And look at Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son.
Right.
With his skirts and his dresses. And he's hot as fuck, by the way, even though he's like, way too young for me. But anyhow, I think that's really cool. And it's like, it's not tacky and outrageous of what I used to do in the 80s and what people used to do in the 70s, but maybe that's the gentler version of it to make people become more that's okay,
It is becoming more socially acceptable. And I think that particularly for straight people, depending on, where they're coming from, a lot of them still need the permission, right? To do the weird thing, like the permission of a con or the permission of Halloween, to put their toe in the water of expressing who they feel inside, and it really matters a lot. I think that people can have the outlet to do that, and people who have it give themselves permission basically daily, like Harry Styles, to do that. That is just the best right there. And yet there's so many people who are still trapped in what I consider the suit. This is what a boy wears, this is what a girl wears, that kind of thing.
And I mean, granted, like Harry Styles, Jaden Smith, they're very privileged.
Oh yes.
They're rich, they're in these bubbles. No one's gonna fuck with them. Like, they couldn't be like, Harry Styles couldn't be his age at UT Austin, walking around like that and not get his ass kicked, right?
Yeah.
So there is some privilege in that they have the freedom to do it, but the fact that social media and everything, it's so out there, I think it's gonna broaden the acceptance of that sort of thing. So that's a rare instance where I think social media and privilege might be a positive,
Well, sure. I took my daughter, she's a big Ariana Grande fan. I can respect that. It's not someone I'm going to choose to listen to, but I took her to a concert a few years ago for her birthday. She'd come to town, and it was one of those big deal things at the big, thing in Portland. And there were a lot of gay people in line. You can tell, she has her fans. And then there were these.
Oh, I'm sure like every gay boy teenager was probably there.
You bet they were. There were some in front of us, and they were dressed to the nines, and they were ready to party. And then there were these asshole Christians, some kind of, Proud Boy wannabe group over there with the megaphone telling everybody they were going to hell. And I'm like, God damn, even in
at an Ariana Grande concert? What the fuck?
I know. And I'm thinking, Ariana Grande has got to be like the most benign.
Sterilized can you get than that,
Thank you. Like I say, she is so benign, I'm like, I'm trying to think who, maybe if, dead or alive are still performing, maybe, but, what the hell?
Oh my gosh, wow.
I
That's
know, I'm old.
something.
I'm old.
But oh, is it Dead or Alive? Oh my God, I remember that. Oh, that tragic queen.
Oh, I know. And he died actually a few
Pete
years.
Burns. Pete Burns, that was his
Yes.
name. It's so funny when you were talking about Boy George. I remember there was this group of girls at my high school, and they were like the mean girls. They were like the popular girls, and they were just a bunch of cunts, They would call me faggot. They would be mean to people. Oh, but they loved Boy George, and if you suggested that he was gay, they would yell at you, he's not gay.
Well, in one of my podunk redneck schools, I knew this gal. She was a Jehovah's Witness on top of it all. And she was absolutely convinced, like a lot of teenage girls are, that if they had the opportunity to fly to England and meet George Michael, he would fall in love with her and marry her, right? And I'm like,
Oh, honey, the second I saw him, I knew. Yeah.
Now, this was before he was, out and everything, but still, I mean,
you
hello.
can still know. Oh, yeah.
But that's the thing. Rednecks have no gaydar. They do. Not really.
I know, but Boy George. Oh my God. And I'm sorry, I said the C word. Do you want me to restate that line so you can cut it out?
No, I don't. I do not care. I know those girls. They are.
Oh my God! But the other, it's just so crazy. But I almost feel like, with the popularity of cosplay now in general.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. It had nothing to do with the gay community, but I think it's good for the gay community because it's getting people outside of their bubbles and accepting other.
Yes. Yes.
And although part of me misses like the time where we needed gender fuck and we needed men in nun habits covered in glitter on roller skates screaming down the street.
Some of us still need that. Yeah.
I mean, God, honey, I will always need it.
I will always love that. It's
but
like
I kind of miss the days where we needed that. I don't want to. Well, I kind of miss being the other.
I don't think it's really gone. Look.
Oh, hell no, but you know what I mean.
Well, I do, but Lil Nas X.
Oh, yeah.
So he's young and he is pissing off even.
Yeah, oh my God, he is in the most homophobic genre music that you could possibly be in. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And I love him.
And that's kind of glorious. And isn't he a Satanist as well?
He may be.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought I read something about that. So yeah, he's pushing it all from, and I could be wrong.
Well, to me, Satanists are just the humanists.
But he's pushing it all from every angle, and I think that's glorious, You
go. Absolutely.
I mean, granted, I still, I couldn't cover my beard in glitter and put on ugly 60s women's clothes and not be harassed in San Jose now. But I also couldn't go to the gay bar with people being like, what do you think this is, 1982? You know what I mean? Yeah. I kind of miss that.
They're kind of co-opted themselves, I guess they
because it was like a coming out adventure to do that just for the freedom of doing it.
Yeah.
Because it was almost like an expression of what everybody thought I was anyway, but I was owning it and loving it and laughing at it. Not that I was laughing at myself, but I would, you know what I mean? Appreciating it.
Right. You were taking the power of it.
I was taking ownership of it. And I don't know, it's a double-edged sword because I almost think it's sad that all that stuff is gone, other than, I mean, it still exists, like I said, in performance arts.
Yeah.
But it's not part of the identity that it used to be. And I miss that.
I think that kids are trying to.
I mean, progress is all fine and dandy, but sometimes maybe it's not so good, you know?
I think it's still there. I think it's just trying to find different ways of expressing itself. But when my son Harry was in, I think it was 2nd grade, he wanted to wear nail polish. And so I painted his nails black, I think. I can't remember. And he went to school, and you know, some of the boys kind of, you know, were asking questions about it, and it was like kind of making comments. And eventually, you know, he's stopped after a while, but he did kind of, at least he did kind of defend himself, defend his choice. And you know, for a while I colored his hair crazy colors, and he'd go to school and he didn't care.
I think I remember seeing,
yeah. So the struggle is still there.
And that's weird though, because like black nail polish, that is like,
it's so goth.
It's so goth, and it's so, I mean, you can go, it's like goth. It's, before goth, it was like Kiss or AC/DC, and then after that, it was My Chemical Romance. And I mean, it's like, black nail polish on guys is like, it goes together like ketchup and fries. Black nail polish on men is just, black polish on women is stupid. Black polish on men is it's supposed to be. I mean, I don't believe that, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, and it's like, you know,
you understand what I'm saying.
And it's taken a while for men to get, you know, have pierced ears. But when I had Harry's ears pierced at his request, you know, there's always a few who have to make a comment, because right now he's got these bright pink stones in, and that's because that's what he likes. And
fabulous.
Yeah, and it is. And at this point, everybody's used to that. But when he first wore it, people were like, you know.
Now, is he like queer identified, or?
No, he
is there just no even talk about that?
As near as I can tell, he's straight.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
And that's fine. That's great. Yeah. That's great. And that he's being free and doing his shit. I think that's great.
He definitely marches to his own drummer, and I applaud that. So, actually, so does
and you know
Ben.
what I got to say? I don't know. Do you know who the Cockettes are? I keep talking about them.
I can imagine. I don't know, but
Okay, they were a hippie performance group in the late 60s, early 70s, based out of San Francisco, mostly gay. They were kind of drag queens, but they were like glitter, gender fuck drag queens. There was, you know, straight women. There was bi men. It was mostly gay.
Cool.
But they have this fabulous documentary about them. And one of the original members of the Cockettes, I think he's dead now. I'm not, anyway. I mean, most of them are dead because of drug overdoses, unfortunately. But but one of the main members of the Cockettes, and he was like glitter, dresses, nail polish, pink hair. I mean, we're talking 1971, you know, totally straight.
Fabulous.
Totally fucking straight. He was just, had this affinity for people and this affinity for the stupidity of definition in society. And he just did this just as a fuck you, 100% straight. So when you said that, you know, he's wearing these pink earrings, but he's straight, I'm like, good on him, because why not? Of course, that should be a thing, you know?
Yes. Absolutely.
You know? Okay, so I have a question for you. What do you think I was talking about this with Amelia.
Mm.
I have never in my life thought about this literally before an hour ago or 90 minutes ago. I think they should have a mandatory 4 or 5 times a school year, mandatory cross-dressing. Just because you know at first, all the boys would make fun of the other boys. Oh, ho, ho, oh my God, look at oh, ho, ho. And they would totally make fun of one another. But I think after the 3rd or 4th time, I think everybody would be into it. And they would just be picking stuff that they liked, knowing that it was cross-dressing. But I think it would make people more comfortable outside of these roles.
I wouldn't make it mandatory because you're just asking for a fight.
Oh, I'm just saying, I can imagine all the pissed off
Yeah,
fathers.
yeah. But
And I know it couldn't be, but I'm just saying, in a fantasy world, wouldn't that be really kind of great and helpful and useful?
But you could do it in the spirit of the punk rock day.
Yeah, and it wouldn't make anybody gay or straight. It would just be like, why can't we all just do this? Because this sort of identity is so false and so stupid.
Well,
You
and
know?
it's fun. And if you say, okay, so tomorrow is cross-dress day at school, kids. If you want, cross-dress, then we'll see, maybe offer, you can, have a contest, or something like that.
Yeah.
But just, making it optional, but make it fun. And yes, you're going to get the crappy comments. But if you do make a tradition out of it, then it might become a little more normalized, I guess.
Again, don't you think that would be I know that would never happen, but it's just sort of, it was an idea that I had, and I thought it would be an interesting sort of thing, and I think it would make kids more, because kids are still mean. They're awful.
Well, yes. No question. Particularly in middle school. So maybe in high school, it might be easier. I don't know.
But I think that would be really, really cool. And then I think that any kids that bullied the other kids for doing that, they have to force sensitivity classes. And then if the parents don't like it, jail.
Oh,
in a perfect world.
You're right, in a perfect world, because the bullying still happens, and I've always said that bullying happens because people allow it to happen, and it still goes on, and nothing gets done about it even still. So
oh fuck yeah, I've told you my horror story with the headmistress Gail Harrell at the school that I used to, my high school. Did I ever tell you about that story?
I don't think so.
Oh, so there was this kid that used to, just endlessly harass me, right? Faggot, 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 blah, 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 push me up against lockers. Whatever, they threw me in the pool one time. And then, but what really got me is I had this friend named Jennifer. She was a really sweet girl. She was shy. She was a geek, science fiction geek. Of course, they were mean to her because because she wasn't a fucking cheerleader, right? So this asshole that used to torment me all the time was mean to Jennifer and made her cry. And that set me the fuck off. And I remember before music class, I went and I grabbed this little shrimp by the neck and I slapped him on the side of the head. And I told him, if you ever fucked with my friend Jennifer or me again, I was going to kick his ass. And that was oh my God, I remember his face. He was like beet red because he was so upset and so terrified. I thought I did a great fucking thing, right?
You did.
So then the music teacher, who was a big fucking lesbian, by the way, so this
Wow.
really fucking pissed me off because everybody knew she was a dyke and she knew she was a dyke. But it was the 80s. She sent me to the office because, you know, blah, 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 even though I explained to her and she knew what was going on, right? So this bitch, Gail Harrell, the headmistress, by this point, I was in her office crying, like literally crying, like bawling my eyes out. Oh, I'm so sick of it. They make fun of me all the time. They throw me up against lockers. They call me a faggot. They made Jennifer cry. They're so mean, blah, 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 blah. And I remember I literally said, I just want to fucking die and nobody cares. Do you know what her reaction was? To write me up and call my mother because I said the word fuck.
I wish I were surprised by this story.
So what you just said, yeah, people that work in schools, they don't give a fuck.
They
They
don't.
really don't. And this conservative Catholic fucking twat. And I remember, I love that word because it's so offensive and so not used.
You're correct.
But I remember we had a reunion, which I'd never gone to any of my reunions. And this bitch had the nerve to send out letters to all of us because my whole graduating class was like 30 people, right? So this bitch, Gail Harrell, sent out letters to all of us. Oh, I have such fond memories of the class of 85, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you all, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't even know. It's like really, really weird, but just send out this letter. And I wrote her back. And I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but I surely remember the misfortune of knowing you. And I told her that whole story, and I said, you know, I hope your false God puts you in your false Catholic hell because you're a cunt. And I literally wrote that to her. And I said, sincerely, with no love and no regard, Brad Sunday, class of 85. And I sent it to her. Maybe that was awful of me, but it felt good.
I think we've all fantasized about telling the sociopathic tormentors of our youth off.
I did it.
Yes, good for
And
you.
maybe it's bad of me, but I don't think so.
You know, if you have no regrets, then I have, you know, no issue with it, frankly.
You know, because she was awful.
Yeah, there are a lot of awful people.
And I couldn't have been the only one that she was awful to, you know.
You know, being a mean kid, remembering that, you know, because I was mean sometimes to some kids. And when Facebook came along, I would look for some of these kids and write them. I don't know if they even cared, but I'd write them on Facebook and say, "I'm sorry. I was a bitch. I'm
Now,
sorry."
did you get any response?
From one.
Yeah, and I hope was it good or was it healing? Was it healing or was it a fuck you?
No, it was good. It was good.
Good.
And mostly silence, and that's okay, you know, because you're allowed to hold a grudge. Yeah, you know, you're allowed to be. You know, I was is my problem, my fault, so you're allowed to be pissed, but I did try to make amends. But yeah,
see, that's good. And you know, and it's funny because I'm in touch with, I mean, I know this is like, I'm not going to go way off topic. It's just related, right? Because we're still on topic. Friends with my English teacher from high school, who was really friends with Gail Harrell. And I was expressing to her this story, and literally she was like, well, I'm not surprised because, you know, she was just a very poor example of an educator and she let down a lot of people. And by the way, everybody thought she was a lesbian.
I see. That's right.
So maybe she was in the closet because she was working for a Catholic school. I don't know what the fuck her problem was.
That's possible. But ow.
But screw her.
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah, people who are repressed tend to be kind of the worst, don't they? They take it out on everybody. Well, listen, it's been close to an hour, so I want to say thank you.
I'm having so much fun.
And I will, until next time, y'all, this has been Brad Sunday. Check out this podcast with Amelia called Pitney and Amelia's Bitchin' Boutique. And
Yes.
until next time.
Goodbye.